All right, good morning, y'all. It's B. James here, your day trading dad. So I'm stepping into today's session. I have something on my mind, and the idea here is a reframe that I've been thinking about, and it's the idea of when we step into our trading day or our trading session, we often, we want to do well, which means we want to be typically measured in profitability. But for me, what I'm focusing on is instead I'm stepping into the day and I'm trying to reframe myself is, am I behaving as someone who would be profitable over 50 plus trades? Because it's easy to make some money on a few trades, right? You can get a winning streak of 3 or 4 trades. But the hard part is keeping those gains. So you don't start giving it back unnecessarily after a loss that then creates emotional issues and causes you to take subpar setups or trades that are not your trades. And so I've been tested with these markets the last 5 weeks. I have not had too many opportunities. As I've said yesterday, when I went back and looked at the number of A-grade trades per week in the last 5 weeks, it's been super low. Some weeks 0, some weeks 1 or 2. On average, only 2 A-plus trades a week, and only a slight bit more when you look at A-grade in general. And that's caused me to, day after day after day of just sitting here and waiting and waiting. It's caused me to build up some pressure and start just kind of messing around a little bit more than I would typically. So for me right now, my focus is entirely on just getting back my discipline that I lost. Thankfully, I didn't really tilt too bad. I just had a lot of losses in a row combined with a lot of break even and only partial winners. And that was the other interesting thing. And I've noticed that with the market conditions before. Sometimes even you just get these conditions where you're not necessarily on straight up losing streaks, but your winners aren't full winners either. And that makes a big difference, at least in my system. So I guess that aside, just some mental reframe that I'm stepping into this session with. We have 6 minutes until open. I'm bullish on the day. We had a major overnight dumpage into all of this LR down in here, this trend line liquidity. We've retraced down into 50% of this 4-hour range. This was bugging me out a little bit for the last few days, just seeing this sitting down in here. So I'm glad we came down and we took it. We're in a bullish market, so I can assume that any retracement below old lows is just manipulation. We do have SMT down in here. We tapped into daily levels. We tapped into 4-hour levels. We got a 1-hour C2 candle here. So the reversal actually happened pre-market, which is not stoked about, but we might see a continuation here. Now the 15-minute chart, Mario, if you're there, I did watch that video. And it totally reminded me of the 15-minute chart being king. And so what we have going on here is we have the Asia range. We have London swept Asia's high and then came down for the low. And so that says we got a couple things going on here. Potentially seek and destroy when that happens. But more so what we have is London distributed, and then New York pre-market took London's low into these higher time frame levels, forming an SMT. We can see it 2.5 standard deviations of that bearish breaker overlined with the midnight open. And then we also formed another breaker down in here. Now, we did tap the 1/3 ADR. Typically, when you hit the 1/3 ADR, it means you have more likely a chance of continuation. In this case, I'm not so sure because it's a bullish market, because we tapped into some major liquidity. I'm actually thinking it's going to be a New York low a day protraction. And it's going to come up for at least retesting this breaker, at least retesting 50% of this price leg right here. And above we have, the midnight open, we have the new day opening gap. Way up here, we have the regular trading hour gap. Don't have tons of amazing targets like, see, here's a swing high. I'd prefer it if it was more like, over here on ES, we have lower highs kind of thing. That's much more what I'd prefer. But nonetheless, I think it's more bullish than it is bearish. So I'm leaning on a bullish bias for the day. Not to say it couldn't be wrong. I still think any kind of manipulation, if I'm wrong, is going to come up into this zone and provide something to sink my teeth into. Ideally, what I'd like to see at 9:30 is I'd like to see it trade down into this 15-minute fair value gap for a long. So yeah, that's the plan for the day. Is want to see some kind of move like this, and then if it's bearish, hopefully it turns around, or it might turn around up in here. If it's bullish, it'll keep going. So yeah, we got 3 minutes until open. Just kind of want to mark this gap here. Looks like we do have an inversion here on the 15-minute. And looks like price is already starting to do what I wanted it to do. So we do have some nice equal highs right up in there. So we're trading down to the 15-minute. We have some equal lows right down in here. Boy, we have this gap here. So I'm just going to preemptively size. I don't like, it's not super awesome. I think it's going to be more volatile than that, but just in case, I'm going to size for it. I'm still trying to risk only 200 per trade. Now, YM is completely decoupled and just rallied all morning so far. I'd like to see NQ trade down a little further than that. There's not really tons of room before a break-even point with these swing highs. All right, 1 minute till open. We do have some relative equal highs directly above. Do have some SMT even though the indicator is not showing it. SMT indicator is on. So let's see what happens here. About 6 seconds until open. It would be nice if it created a gap down in here. Who knows if it will. All right, this low has been swept. So there's the 9:30 open. SMT at these lows. Kind of pushed pretty far through that 15-minute fair value gap though. All right, we're not leaving any gap here. Switching over here to the 2-minute chart, there is a gap on the 2-minute that could potentially be useful. I'm going to stay here on the 2 minute, I think. It looks like it wants to close above that 1 minute gap, probably early. We shall see. I'd like it better if this candle closed low and gave us a one more candle. Yeah, just like that. Man, it's slow to switch between time frames, which I really don't like that. Oh boy. I wonder if it's going to sweep these highs before it even closes. That would be a bummer. Come on, don't do it. Shoot. All right, so now we're forming this breaker here. Okay, so there we go. We got selling it, taking a partial right there at 1R. Price is coming up. Almost to break even here. Here I want to see some good response. Just push up a little higher. Okay, it's retesting the breaker and the inversion here. Beautiful, beautiful. Oops, shoot. Well, all right, so I guess I'm out at break even. Trying to think here if I think that this is actually the manipulation or not. there we go. I feel like price has been doing that a lot lately where it almost hits my TP. And so I've just been going break even because it's a number of ticks shy, comes back. And it's like, I don't have the data on that yet. It's like 50-50 as to if that's a good decision or not. In this market condition, I feel like it's saved my butt a few times, but it's also cost me a few times. So there would be 1R. I would still be in the trade. I'd be at break even if I was in this. Part of it was it just wasn't A+. I mean, it swept these equal highs with this candle, and I went in, and I just didn't feel right, which is why I erred on the side of breaking even. So let's wait and see what happens. Because I'm still not convinced that this isn't a manipulation. And I definitely felt FOMO, and I definitely was like, my mind wanted to enter on this this order block right up in here, but I had to remember that I wanted more than anything to have an A+ day or an A grade performance for today. And even then I'd have to reconsider if this was an A grade trade, if it already took this liquidity, which it's questionable because currently it's been doing that more. I wouldn't typically consider this an A grade trade. All right, so that's pretty much starting to look bearish. I'm logged out. Why is that? Interesting. How did I get logged out? Okay, what's it doing here? It thinks I'm logged in over here. I see. You know, we are Thursday before NFP, so that's also a consideration for price action today. Connect. Oops. All right, there we go. All right, so we do have this inversion here too. Which I'm not bearish. The market certainly could be bearish. I just can't take shorts yet. Which what we can see is it might want that. Look how it's distributing nicely here. Whereas the bullish move, it came in hot at first after open, and then it wasn't quite sure what it wanted to do. And now it's rolling over some. So it does look like we came up, tapped up into this 1 hour fair value gap just barely. There's bearish SMT. However, bearish SMT at all-time highs doesn't seem to really do anything. On the 15-minute, we tapped into that gap that I'd marked, and 130 ADR. So this is, at this moment, starting to look like it could be seek and destroy, or it could be continuation of the London trend, which is actually less common than coming up and sweeping this London high. I think it's only 13% of the time does New York continue the London trend. But look at this candle. 30 seconds to close, and it's bearish. Pretty dang bearish. There's a 15-minute, on the 15-minute, this looks really nice for this potential 15-minute inversion right there. But there's just not targets below, I don't see. We've tapped in, unless it wants to finish this gap. That was the one thing that I forgot until just I saw this gap, is I'd marked this gap wondering if 930 might want to open up, trade down in this gap, take this low, mitigate more of this, and then come up. Which then that would probably be more like in alignment with 4 standard deviations of this breaker up here on the midnight open. So this breaker here never got retested. It's the bearish, this bigger bearish breaker. And look at that, short was it today. And now we don't really have great targets. Previously we had these equal highs, and that's where I got sketched out when this candle closed and it took it. And I guess I guess my rules say that's a B grade trade, but I also did some data collecting of recent setups where this is actually a pretty valid setup where it sweeps this local internal and then continues on. I guess that was just lucky today that I went break even instead of taking a loss. Although had I held, I would have at least gotten a partial on that. So I don't know, is that a win or is that a lose? I'm not sure. I'm not certain. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to mark out that 1 hour gap that I'm interested in right down here. I don't like anything right in here. This is not a good zone in my opinion. Not really building any liquidity. Oh, I forgot my everything. I forgot my everything. So session pre-market, I was bullish. So here we have a couple of large gaps. Really can't do much with that. Here's a 3-minute gap, but just playing the idea that it could still be long. SMT down at these lows, which is another thing the market's been doing lately that I've noticed, is the retracements have been deep, where if this is our price leg, in a more typical market, it feels like it would come back down to, 25%, 50%, and then continue on. Whereas in this market, it's been coming back down to like super deep 786 kind of levels, almost taking the low and then continuing on. So I've been noticing that pattern, but it's tough because like, when do you adapt? How long do you wait before you adapt your trading criteria, expectations? Because I've noticed that the market moves in these different regimes, and I feel like as soon as you change how you're trading, it goes back to the way it was or something like that, So there's a 5-minute gap down in here. There's just not strong targets. I can't take a long here. I mean, I guess there's these relative equal highs right there and here on the 1 minute. Alrighty, so what do we got? So I'm definitely not confident on direction, given what I'm seeing here. It's possible it wants to seek and destroy, given the London took Asia's high and low. It's the day before NFP. It's quite possible it just wants to consolidate here. It's also possible it wants to deliver down to the rest of this gap, and which I'm thinking is a little bit more likely than bullish continuation, I think. But also the market, like I just said, has been doing exactly this. So at the moment, I'm pretty neutral. If it came back down into here cleanly, I might, it would have to create some equal highs up in here, really. And then I'd be interested in some kind of long. If it doesn't create any equal highs internally, then I'm probably not interested in a long down in here. 5-minute chart's pretty ugly at the moment, pretty indecisive. 15-minute as well. So here's the first presented fair value gap, the little green gap here. If we flip that, I don't like it. Still hovering around 930 open, so it's the question of like, is this the manipulation or is this the manipulation at 930? Let's put up the hourly open lines. Same thing with 9 o'clock. It's like, okay, look at this hourly candle. It's accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Nope. Manipulation, maybe. Distribution, maybe. All right, so we're flipping over this inversion. We have this 3-minute gap right there. It has a nice break even, but it has, just in my opinion, not the clearest targets. I also don't like that we didn't tap further into this 1-hour gap. That would have helped me out with confidence on any sort of longs. So I think for the moment, I'm going to have to stay sidelined. I feel like you usually have a pretty good read on the market. Where I mess up tends to be in these little micro errors in my trading. My draw on liquidity tends to be right for the session. I don't know for today. I have zero confidence in any of the three options at the moment. I would need to see more. Meanwhile, look at YM. So here's MNQ and here's MYM. Just look at this massive move since London, New York pre-market, and then New York. I guess that's all new all-time highs for YM probably. I don't even know what do you do when it blows past 4.5 standards deviations of the breaker and just doesn't even stop. Maybe it was a bigger breaker. Maybe this is the breaker now. Like this guy right here. That's 2.5 of that. Yeah, look at this 15-minute kind of in hindsight. Here, this is some pretty ugly price action down at these lows, and it's not a clean breaker. And maybe I know that this is actually the breaker, like for sure the breaker. I considered this swing here. So we have a swing high, swing low in this candle, and a swing high again. These three candles to me were forming the breaker. After sweeping session liquidity. And it's definitely been hard, like, because I've been framing myself for the day, like, am I behaving like someone who will be profitable over 50 trades? Sometimes that can cause me to short out because there's a part of me that wants to be more aggressive in my trading because I know I could be. Compared to every trader I know, I feel like I'm the least aggressive. And in situations like this, I'm like, whoa, what do I do? I feel like, and this is in part why I'm so about having written down criteria that I can just recall, such as this is a B grade trade for me because it took this local external range of liquidity. So that should have been an automatic no to take that trade. But I also have been, like I said, researching, well, lately it's been doing that, so maybe I can make an exception and bump that up to at least an A- grade trade. That if everything else looks perfect, which this did, everything else would have been in alignment. And ultimately it's just a breaker, which I just don't take breakers very often anymore. Here's the bullish breaker on the 1 minute. I prefer the inversions because I can get a good break even typically before the breaker even forms. So I'm front running the breakers. And so then I went through like all these mental gymnastics, and that's why I got quiet after this trade, is I was processing, well, did I break my rule or did I not break my rule? It's kind of nebulous at the moment because I'm kind of flexible on it and kind of have data to back it up, but I haven't solidified the rule. So that caused me to short out a little bit and freeze. Whereas if that had been solidified, it would have been a clear yes or no on this trade. I just don't have an answer on that right now. Additionally, then the other layer becomes, would the profitable trader be behaving like this? Well, that's another reason why I stalled out after I took this trade. Another reason why I went break even slightly early. And then that's the third thing that happened for me is my rule says TP1 and then break even. But I've been noticing in these market conditions, it's been almost hitting my TP and then coming back and going against me. And so I've become more protective, which is a bad thing. I don't want to just to be taking break even trades. In this case, it worked in my favor. Earlier in the week, it worked against me. I would have had a partial win on that trade. So I guess it washes out at this point. Or no, in this case, I still would have had the partial trade, the partial. So never mind. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of mental gymnastics going on in this 3 or 4 minute time period. 1, 2, 3, 4, those 4 minutes right there. And I'm trying to eliminate as much of that as possible, which I did for a little while before the last few weeks when the market's been moving differently. My rules were pretty clear. And so it made it really easy to just to be in a trade and to not worry about the management. So I guess that's my task for the coming weekend is to re-solidify these questionable rules. And I'm noticing it's stressing me out this week, and make it as mechanical as I can, because there's enough discretion in trading as it is. And I want to remove as much of it as I can so it becomes easy yes or no answers. And like for me, it's been really nice. My trade management plan, that's what I love the best, is like when you get into a trade, I don't have to think anymore. And I would just kind of not think. Here I did think, because I'm like, oh crap, I don't remember where I entered. Maybe here, who knows, something like that. I'm like, oh man, it's like just a few ticks from my take profit. And even then I looked, I was like, well, the relative equal highs were taken. I didn't want to TP that early. But because I was like, oh, that's only 0.7 R. So I didn't want to TP because it was something like this, But the way it worked out, my target was a little further than 1 R. And so maybe I need to consider that for my break even, is like, if I just know, like, yeah, I can break even before 1 R if a target's been hit. Whatever it is, I need to come up with that. So far, just consolidating. We'll see what happens. I don't have much hope for this session. Maybe it might consolidate for a few, come back down for a 10-30 long. That's been happening a lot lately. Where is it? So one of the things I do is I record the daily delivery here. So the New York AM reversal came at 10 o'clock on Monday. 10:50 Friday, 10 o'clock this Tuesday. And before that, I was just recording like when the AM setup was 10:30, 10:15. So we've been, the AM reversal, the AM session low or high has been more on the side of 9:50, 10:30 zone. So that gives me a little bit of hope. And I don't know, I love this kind of stuff. I collect, so I can look back and I can see when was the morning setup, when was the lunch setup, and when was the PM setup. And I'm going to build a statistics app to go with my trading journal, which is this right here, which I forgot to mention this. I'm still working on it, so there's some bugs I'm working out, like this is still floating up in here and all that, but you can see this is my performance for this week, the consistency lab, build consistency, improve performance. And so instead of journaling profits and loss, I'm journaling performance. And it grades me on basically all the attributes in my session. And I do record, did I realize any R, did I miss any R? But that's more so just to understand how much R did I miss on the day. And I can track all my sessions for the day that I trade, and it outputs it. And I need to work on this. Like, this isn't true. There's not a major leakage, but I need to work on the programming math behind it, because like I missed a half R this week, but because I've gained so little this week, there's just not been much to sink my teeth into. It thinks that I've, 60% of the R has been only obtained, whereas 40% has been missed, So yeah, I'm excited to get this thing pulled together a little bit better and start getting more data in here to start seeing like you can see like a moving average of your performance. You can see a radar chart of your rules, execution, context of your trade, your setup itself, and your emotions. And then it plots trades in terms of luck versus discipline. So that's, good loss, which I need to fix this because there's no loss on this in this data set yet. Disciplined winner and disciplined winner. So I need to figure out some of these bugs. But it's been, at the very least, I know that for me, while I'm working on the bugs for some of the reporting, because that's kind of hard. That's actually been the harder part, is getting like, well, how do you get meaningful data out of this? Because at first when I plugged in like just some test data, it all worked fine. But now what I'm seeing is in real time, I'm like, well, that's not really a huge opportunity leakage. So I need to get the interpretation of the data better in the programming. But at the very least, what I'm trying to say is this calendar has been super amazing and helpful. Just like instead of keeping my TradeZella open, I keep this open. And it keeps me much more focused on what matters, because you can have a red week as a trader and like that's totally fine. You can have red month, that's part of the game. But does it start beating you down, and does it start making you make different decisions? And this has really helped me feel like, well, I don't need to make different decisions. It's just the way that the cookies are crumbling at the moment. Maybe that's a total cop out. I don't know. I don't think it is, because I review every week. Let me show you that maybe. If there's nothing else going on, yeah, there's nothing going on. So what I do is I do weekly reviews where I go back on the week and I evaluate my performance based off of every day. And I say, and this was a poor week because we can see I had poor performance and I had lots of missed R. And this is where I missed a setup on this day and I took 2 losses. Okay. I did poor on this day. I did good on this day. I did poor on this day. 50%'s my, grade. I failed. And in the end, I ended up down, 1 R on the day. A perfect performance would have been 4.2, or excuse me, the week. So I ended up down 1 R on the week. A perfect performance on this week would have been 4.25 R. And so you see the difference right there is 5.25 R. And that's where I came up with the idea after I did this. And I went through and I'm going to backtrack. So I'd go through every day and I would evaluate what setup I took and what setup I missed. Gray setups are setup I missed, and colored setups are setups I took. And I, gave myself the grading. Like in this case, I missed it, but I just wasn't sure about it. So that was my failure. I took this A+ trade, but the context was poor. I took this A+ model, but the context was not strong. So these are losses. And it started compiling the data in terms of like what I did versus what I should have done. And I came up with a optimal performance. And if I had played the day perfectly, following my rules, and that's how I grade it. So it's not just looking back on this day and saying, well, I shouldn't have taken that trade, or I should have. It's no, my context wasn't strong. And so therefore I can say I shouldn't have taken that trade. Whereas the context for this trade being much more into discount was stronger. And so grading it that way gives me the ability to look at the week and say, my result was -1 R. A perfect week would have been positive 4.25 R. Therefore, I missed out on 5.25 R. And when I saw that, I realized that my profits really do correlate to my performance. And my performance is my rules, criteria, and everything else that I need, my patience and my emotions. And so I've done that for weeks now, basically reviewing the plays of the weeks. Okay. So I'm not opposed to something. We are sweeping down into this gap. We do have a 2-minute, an okay looking 2-minute here. We've swept this low here. We have SMT down at these lows. We do have some local trend line liquidity. Not amazing. We're also day before NFP. YM is still decoupled and bullish. ES is in the middle somewhere. I'd really like it to tap into the consequent encroachment of that 1 minute or that 1 hour for value gap. Not amazing. Liquidity targets. I guess technically we have this volume imbalance down in here. No, we don't. Not anymore. Oh, no, maybe we do. Oh, we got 2 minutes. I'm just going to go turn off the heat. All right, so I just need to ask myself, like, is this a light bulb trade? And, ooh, I don't know. If it had built up more liquidity up in here, for certain. It's also looking a little heavy. But I feel like we still have these relative equal highs above. And I could be totally off sides on this too. Because there's about a 13% chance that New York AM will continue the London session trend. And unless this is the top of the market, which, you know, we are towards the end of the week, but I don't think it is. I need to see like a daily change in state of delivery before I'm going to consider, for me personally, shorting. So I'm not stoked about this candle here. All right, so we got a 1 minute inversion. Got 4 minutes left on this 15-minute candle. It seems like it's responding super strong. We'll give it a try. I think it's close enough. Cool. So TP1 hit. So I was also kind of going off of the possibility that this pattern of the 10 a.m. low of the session playing out. All right, so we had that nice little inversion there. Come on in, Q, let's go. Let's move. Let's move. Coming back into the 9:30 open. So for me, now it's either seek and destroy or it's the low of the session. Let's see what it does. We just have all these equal highs sitting above still right there. But saw some nice distribution coming out of that. We are forming some trend line right there. Uh-oh, waffles are ready. Coming back for me at break even, maybe? That's okay, I followed my rules. If it's bullish, I want to see this candle close back above here. There you go. Keep going. Keep going. There's just some domino highs right in here. We have this one and this one. Those highs to take out. That's an okay close. It still can keep going. I just would like to see the strength switch from YM roll over into NQ now. All right, pushing up nicely. For me, it matters if I get my TP2 a lot. 3/4 of my profit come from TP2, whereas about 1/4, 1/3 maybe, come from TP1, depending on the number of contracts that I get in on it. If I have even number of contracts versus an odd number of contracts. And this is looking pretty all right so far. This zone we're in right now is really where I want to watch it and see if it starts to want to trade back down against me. It might, and that kind of indicates we're still bearish, or it's more of a consolidation kind of price action today. And if it takes these highs without tons of effort, then that kind of tells us that my thesis was right. This is the 10 a.m. low of the session, and it's going to continue on for higher prices. Kind of stalling out here at this 930 first presented fair value gap. So I'd like to see it flip it, obviously, for my purpose, for my trade. Let's go, NQ. Let's go. Come on. Either way, I'm happy. I did a solid job of following my rules. I was patient, waited for my setup. I was totally fine with not taking another trade after my first break even. And even still, if I just get tapped out of break even, if it gives it a death candle down, I'm good. I don't need this extra little bit because I can give myself a solid rating on my performance for today. $15-minute chart's looking pretty good. All right, so we're taking out this high right here. Still have this high sitting up here. But is that all it wanted? We'll find out. Look at this candle here. Pushing down pretty hard considering that the liquidity was already swept. Really needs to get snappy out of there, or I'm going to feel like it's going to come back for me. And I don't want to see this closing very, very bearish. Like, it shouldn't have to come back down in here twice. Otherwise, it's just kind of building liquidity against me. And it's looking like at this time, maybe it wants to close down there. That's probably coming. Okay, so it's a bearish closure. Really, there's this volume imbalance right here. It might want that before continuing, and it might want to retrace some of this range too, which I'm above the 50% of this range. So you can see it might want to tap me out before continuing on. We shall see. That's been what's happening a lot lately in this market. Deep retracements, and they keep taking me out. But that's okay. I don't think I should trade my trading system, because I know by and large over the years it works. It's just the last few weeks, it's been a little tougher on me not getting full take profits. So taking normal losses and then partial wins most trades. I think yesterday was my first full win in like a while, a week or two. So we kind of have this breaker right here. There's that volume imbalance. There's the breaker. And here's this fair value gap. So it took external range liquidity, and now it seeks internal range. It must not be that bullish, because when it's uber bullish, it just keeps going. There isn't very much in terms of retracements. And sure, you can get these little retracements like here. You know, you can see boom, and then a shallow retracement, boom, boom, shallow retracement, boom, 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 boom. And then now we're seeing a little bit of a deeper retracement. All right, so it's closed below this volume imbalance, and this is about the zone where I'd like to start see it moving, if it's going to move in my favor. So AMD accumulation, manipulation, distribution is my theory. Here's accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. But we'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Doesn't really matter, right? Like, it's just all a coin toss. So no tail on this candle. I don't like that. I like this candle here. Nice close above this candle, the C2 candle. However, this doesn't have a tail. And that's fine if they're bullish. If they want to, like, if they have, excuse me, this is obviously bullish, but no tail and a large expansion, then I'm more okay with it. But without a tail, it's telling me it might want to come back down and put a tail on that candle. Possibly might want to consolidate in this zone. Not something I want to see either. I got to sit up like straight like this. There we go. Put a tail on that candle, and it's solid close. It's still fighting with that first presented fair value gap. And we're also at the 9:30 opening price right here, and then the closing price for the regular trading hours, electronic trading hours, which means that whole gap for the regular trading hours is still like huge, like a huge gap right up in there. So here's these relative equal highs above. I'll still probably not be greedy and take profit where my plan says to. Beautiful candle right there. So swept this high. Let's see if it sweeps this high. We do have a fair value gap right here that it's going to work. Or is it BPR? There's something. See how there's this gap, and this gap all overlap? Like there's definitely some form of something here, I'm sure. And that seems like a pretty critical zone. It fought it here, manipulated, came above, fought it, came back down, fought it again, fought it again. So whatever this is right here, I don't know what to call it. It's not anything, I don't think. Other than maybe if, a supply and demand zone or something like that, but all right, let's go NQ. Let's hit that final TP. We're going to front run this high. So I'm at 2.5 is where I typically take profit for my second TP. And then I would want to front run this high because it might want to create an SMT and maybe just keep coming back down. So I'm okay with that. And this is where I would love it to pick up some momentum. Oh, it's just so close. Come on. Swept that high. Little tiny gap here. Come on then, Q. Let's go. Come on, just do it. You're teasing me, man. Like I was saying earlier, it keeps doing that where it's always close to my TPs. This just the way the market's been moving the last few weeks, it comes close to these TPs, and then it comes back all the way against me. The retracements have been deep. And yeah, I mean, okay, so we have a swing high right there. What can we, reasonably expect is if it's bullish, it shouldn't come below the 0.5. We do have these two lows down in here. So this here is a 15-minute high. And we do have 2 minutes left on this 15-minute candle. All right, so for me, I don't know, maybe I'll be naughty. To be naughty would be to move my stop up. I'm not supposed to. I could do here probably. And my rules say if it's building liquidity against me, I can do it. But in theory, I should let it do it, but it's just so close. Come on, NQ, let's go push. Come on, like by a tick or two. What I don't like is when it gets right there and then it just comes against you. There we go. Beautiful. Full TP on that one. Boom. I'll take it. All right, well, I'd stick around longer, but my waffles are probably getting cold. So if I'm talking down here, I'm looking at my camera. Yeah, it looks like I'm hunched over, doesn't it? So I really need to adjust my camera. I'll do that later. Sorry, I just noticed that when I was talking about waffles, I was looking over at my messages. I have waffles that are ready.